Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Oles, president and founder here at Black Speakers Network, and we are thrilled to have you join us for the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. As we dive into our theme, progressing from stigmas to solutions, we encourage you to contribute to the dialogue by participating in the chat. Now, as you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is a time to spotlight the importance of mental health, especially within the Black community. As we come together for these enlightening discussions, we hope to raise awareness, foster understanding, and contribute to the journey of emotional wellness for us all. This speaker series is broken into 6 parts, divided into 3 sessions, airing each day. So, no matter what part you're joining us for, we encourage you to go ahead and watch the entire series. You definitely don't want to leave anything on the table. The speakers you're about to hear from are leading and emerging experts as well as advocates in the mental health and wellness space. Each speaker is also a proud member of Black Speakers Network. We will be talking about very important issues today. So before we begin, I want to ask you to go ahead and spread the word to your family, friends, people in your community, networks, companies that should be a part of this conversation. You can click the share button or simply just share the link and invite folks into the conversation. A few final notes before we get started. Number one, the speaker series is just one of hundreds of speaking opportunities shared across the Black Speakers Network ecosystem. So if you are a current or aspiring speaker looking for your next stage, I want to invite you to learn more. You can head over to blackspeakersnetwork.com/join. And on the other hand, if you are a meeting planner, conference or event organizer, or a host, and you're looking for the perfect speaker for your next event, I would love to connect with you as well. You can browse, find our online speakers directory, or submit a speaker request for your next event by using the links in the description for this video. Now, that out the way, let's go ahead and get kicked off. Thank you so much again for being here and joining us on this journey, and welcome to the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. Let's go.
Hello, Black Speakers Network, and welcome to my session, How to Conquer Your Business Anxiety to Boost Your Black Business. My name is Seneca Williams, and I am an entrepreneur therapist, coach, and speaker. And you're probably here because you too are also a speaker. Maybe you're in a service-based business and you're in the right place. I hope you have something to write with, because by the end of this short session, I will be giving you some homework so you can break through your business anxiety today. Before we get into business anxiety, why do Black businesses fail? Now, I'm not talking about the financial stuff like the wealth gap, but I'm talking more the emotional things that come up. Now, according to blackeconomics.org, one of the top few reasons why Black entrepreneurs may have a hard time in business are because they don't have family members that were business owners. So, this is the very first time you are the first entrepreneur in the family or the first one to go this far. So, you don't have examples. Another thing is you may be risk averse. For many of us, we cannot put thousands and thousands of dollars into our business. And because we may lack funding or anything like that, it's really scary thinking about, I might lose everything if I start a business. So we may be risk averse and not risk tolerant while running the business. Another thing is mindset. Many of us see negative things happening to people who achieve success or a lot of money. If you know Biggie Smalls, you're from Brooklyn, represent, you might have heard more money, more problems, right? More money, more problems. So all of those things are emotional reasons that kind of creep in, subconsciously creating business anxiety. So, what is business anxiety anyway? Well, first of all, even though I am a licensed therapist, I just want to put the disclaimer, this is not a real diagnosis. So, don't go telling your therapist I said that. Business anxiety, however, is something I recognize in my clients and many other people. Now, tell me if you can relate to this. You have a great skill set. Maybe you're an expert. You're really good at what you do. I know when I went to school to become a therapist, I learned the skills that I needed to. But when it was time to start my own therapy and coaching business, that was really hard for me. I was scared all the time and nervous about making mistakes. I didn't know how to brand and market or get on social media and do lives and all of these things to attract clients. Networking was something new to me. It was pretty intimidating. I'm an introvert. I have social media anxiety. It was really hard. Or sales. Sales anxiety was a big one. Knowing what to charge, feeling guilty about raising my prices, not knowing how to value my speeches or my talks or anything like that. That was really challenging for me. So you might be experiencing something similar, and then what you end up doing is you go into avoidance mode, or you end up procrastinating or self-sabotaging. So we don't want that to happen, and that's why you're here. What I do with my coaching clients, I use something called the Conquer method. Now, the Conquer method uses psychological theory. So you are going to walk away tonight boosting your business and conquering your business anxiety based on psychology. Now, later on, I can share these slides with you if you reach out to me. I know it's pretty tiny, but one of those theories is the self-directed learning theory. Now, the self-directed learning theory is really great for my clients with business anxiety, and here's why. Many of them are so used to being an employee and being told what to do by their manager, by their boss, or someone else, a supervisor, that they don't really know how to think for themselves. There's so much stuff that you have to do as a business owner where you're going to have to come up with ideas on your own and figure things out and come up with your own plans and organization. Self-directed learning helps you to learn how to learn, because you're going to be doing a lot of learning as an entrepreneur. And I know that you can relate to that. Another one of those theories is the self-determination theory. Now, the self-determination theory, that one is great because the three main components are autonomy, competence, and connectedness. Once my clients know how to do things by themselves and on their own and take initiative and implement, they feel more confident because they have competence. The more you practice something, the more competent you will feel. And connectedness is about finding your people, finding your tribe, finding mentors, those who can support you along the way. Now, as I go through these slides, I'm going to go pretty quickly, but they spell out conquer, clarify your goals, the C in conquer. Besides just figuring out what your SMART goals are, I want you to think about why you want those goals in the first place and being specific. So, I want to get 5 speaking engagements and I want to make this much money. How will you feel when you do that? When you create your goals, remember the emotion behind them, the why behind the emotion. Overcome any past emotional limits. Maybe in the past you bombed on stage. Maybe in the past you failed, or maybe you tried to sell your coaching program and it didn't work out. Every time that you start again, think of yourself as a scientist, and this is just trial number 3. You're going to keep going and going and going until you hit the mark. Don't give up. Normalize building mental wealth. That might look like you seeking out a therapist. All entrepreneurs should have a therapist. Seeking out coaches that specialize in the areas that you need help with, or seeking out mentors. Qualify your plans, your assets, and your supports. So maybe you might think like, I don't know what to do. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough whatever. You might have everything that you need. So start saying, what do I know? What do I have? And who do I know? Upgrade your mindset for growth. How do you do that? Start building your business library. Get yourself some books about business, about mindset, about things that help you to be your highest self. Expand your mind. Execute your plans with persistence. It's really great to say, I tried something once or twice, but when you are persistent and you keep going, sky is the limit. Look at Rihanna. Oh my goodness. Do you remember where Rihanna was to where she is now? Oh, wow, right? Success leaves clues. So even though Black businesses fail, we have evidence that many Black business owners are successful. And then the R is reflecting on your performance and your progress. Take some time to think about how did you perform and what your progress is instead of thinking about the whole outcome. So instead of thinking the 5 speaking engagements that you didn't make the $100,000, well, how did you perform? How many people did you talk to? How many emails did you send out? How many calls did you get on? Start focusing on that instead of the outcome. Now, are you ready for your business anxiety breakthrough? I hope you are. And I'm going to give you some homework now. This is self coaching. I want you to think about one thing that you've been avoiding doing in your business because you were nervous or scared or didn't know how to do it. And I want you to go back to the other slides and go through them. And I want you to work on that one thing until it is done. Okay. So I have had the pleasure of speaking to you about how to conquer business anxiety and boost your Black business. Like I said, there were many before us. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. My name is Seneca Williams, founder of the Conquer Network. You can reach out to me anywhere on social media at the Conquer Network, or you can join the free group, theconquernetwork.com, and reach out to me there for free resources and supports. And it's been my pleasure. Conquer your best.
Welcome. I am Dr. Faith Ohuoba, speaker, author, and board certified obstetrician, gynecologist, and medical director. I am on a mission to promote holistic healing in women. I am also the upcoming podcast host of The Truth Serum with Dr. Faith, where candid conversations can be had to inspire and ignite change. So let's get into it today. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and as an OB-GYN, I'll be speaking today on Black women and postpartum depression, silenced and ashamed. Just imagine with me for a minute, that you feel guilty, that you do not want to hold your daughter. Imagine the guilt you feel screaming at your newborn son when they're crying instead of answering them with security. Imagine having to put on a happy face, having to feel pressure to be perfect when you would rather be imperfect and in a closet space, hidden and locked away from the world. Finally, imagine feelings of fear, sadness, hopelessness, worthlessness, and pressure that won't go away. Slowly, you feel your mind and your body detach. And you wonder if psychosis is setting in. And you wonder if the only way you can be free and escape is to flirt with the thought of ending your own life. That is why I am speaking about postpartum depression in women. We need to break the silence. Postpartum depression is a complication of pregnancy and should be framed as such in conversations. There's nothing to be ashamed of, and the silence does not help. Did you know that May is also Preeclampsia Awareness Month? Preeclampsia also is a pregnancy complication. Although it is not met with silence, it is not met with shame, but yet postpartum depression is. Personally, I experienced postpartum preeclampsia. I did not feel shamed. I did not feel silenced. I felt screened. Now, I empathize with my patients going through postpartum depression because they may not have that freedom to talk about the complication that they are experiencing. So let's reframe the condition. Let's reframe and normalize postpartum depression. It is a normal complication of pregnancy. Who doesn't know Serena Williams? Did you know Serena Williams had postpartum depression after the birth of her first child? This was around the time when she lost a tournament and had to withdraw from one of the biggest tennis tournaments as well. She did her due diligence by going on social media and speaking about her experience with postpartum depression. She did frame it as postpartum emotions, as opposed to postpartum depression at times. Understanding the stigma of this term may cause people not to associate. Nevertheless, I do thank her, and I'm very grateful for influential voices like hers to speak and break the silence about postpartum depression. Now, I may not be a tennis player, but I can say that we both have the intentions to bring awareness to this topic. I want to take a moment just to clarify the difference between postpartum blues and postpartum depression. Postpartum blues can start anywhere from 2 days and last up to 2 weeks and resolve on its own, unlike postpartum depression, which can start in a couple of weeks and even occur up to a year, and sometimes may require treatment. Postpartum depression is subtle in onset and yet has long-lasting effects, potentially in terms of child bonding. So when we speak about postpartum depression, we also should extend our thoughts to not just the women experiencing this phenomenon, but also to their children as well. If you're taking notes, please write this down. Silence and shame in Black women can be discussed with 3 P's: people, provider, promise. People, provider, promise. People, provider, promise. People. The silence of people perpetuate the problem. How can we solve something that is not asked? Something that we don't talk about? Traditionally, the healthcare system in America has been distrusted by Black women due to racially discriminatory practices ingrained into history in America. In addition, Black mothers may not want to speak out about postpartum depression, especially when they're feeling worthless, feeling stigmatized, feeling like they're unfit mothers. Now to bring up this experience in a healthcare system that traditionally has been met with distrust can breed fear, especially if there is a fear of retribution with child protective services being involved. According to the CDC, 1 in 8 to 9 women report depression after giving birth, and the rates are actually 1.6 times higher in Black women compared to white women. There is also a huge variation as to how postpartum depression is screened. Also, according to the CDC, about 51% to 96% of women are being asked about postpartum depression after birth. I say this to say the second P, providers. Providers are also influential in this phenomenon of postpartum depression. OBGYNs, as well as prenatal care providers, can be discriminatory in their practices in delivery of care of Black women. So, as I mentioned before, this can cause variations in screening practices of postpartum depression. And sometimes that is met with unconscious, sometimes even, but yet implicit bias. So once a diagnosis of postpartum depression if made, the next step is actually treatment. And so the treatment would involve medication, sometimes psychotherapy, which is talk therapy, and also referral to a mental health specialist. So the opportunity to screen has to be met consistently so that there is an opportunity to treat. Lastly, providers should be conscious and aware of providing safe places for Black women in their care. A safe space that allows Black women to share experiences without invalidation. The last P is promise. There is a promise that this too shall pass. There is a promise that there is help. There is a promise that you are not alone. So, with this being said, collaborating with organizations that are dedicated to promoting Black maternal health and mental awareness is imperative. Such organizations such as Black Mamas Matter Alliance and the National Birth Equity Collective are important. These organizations help spur change and advocacy and policy and culture shift. In addition, we cannot forget to promise that help is ever present for women with support groups and hotlines as well. Together, our Black women do not have to be in silence, and they do not have to be ashamed of what is actually a normal pregnancy complication. Thank you for listening. If you felt inspired or informed, please feel free to follow me on Instagram at iamdrfaith.md. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nichica Melton, and I help entrepreneurs and future entrepreneurs break free from the cycle of identity crisis that has kept them from seeing and fulfilling their God-given purpose. And what I want to have a conversation with you today about is getting over it. We have heard it, we have said it, and meant it. It's been said to us, and we've said it to other people. Just get over it. What's your problem? Get over it. You don't like it? Get over it. The reality is, we need to stop telling people, stop telling ourselves to get over it. You can't. You're not going to forget what happened. But what you do have to do is work through it. Getting over it isn't an option. Nobody knows how to get over it. What literally happens is we start trying to suppress what we're thinking and how we're feeling. We push it down until there's no more room, and then we explode or implode. One of the two happens. Why? Because it's not possible to get over it. Easier said than done. So what I want to help you do, or at least start the process, is working through it. That's what we have to encourage our own selves to do, because we all have traumas. We all have moments that keep replaying and replaying in our minds. We keep going through different scenarios. We keep going through the what ifs. What if I had seen it this way, heard it that way? So in this, our short time together today, I want to give you the 5 B's, not B-E-E apostrophe S, but B-E apostrophe S. The 5 B's of working through it. Now, this is just a short, quick summarization because I don't have a lot of time to unpack it, but it is a starting point. So the first B is to be real. Be real. Realize that you are the victor and not the victim. Why? Because you made it through. You made it through every single moment of your life. You are here right now. Be real. You are the victor and not the victim. Tell yourself that every single day. I am the victor. I have the victory. I am not the victim. I made it through. I am making it through. This is not my past tense. This is my present and my future. I am making it through. The second B, be you. Be you. Accept that at the end of every moment in your life, that moment did not stop your life. You kept living. You kept going. Be you. But this is what I want you to stop doing. Stop being the safe version of yourself that you created because of all of those moments, that person that you get to hide behind, that mask that you've created. Don't be that, because that's not you. You've got to be the you that God has designed you to be, because that's where your blessings are. That's where your gifts are. That's where your skill sets are. Be you. Let go of the mask. Let it go. Be you. The third B, be great. We want you to be great. And I want you to want it for yourself. Accept the fact that you have a lot to offer this world. You have a lot to offer yourself. You are destined to make an impact on the people around you. There are people watching you that you don't even know about, and you are literally changing their lives. So go be great. Go be great. Let me give you this thought, and I want you to write this down. A robber never robs or goes after an empty vault. You've gone through what you've gone through because you are so full of greatness. It is ridiculous. A robber never goes after an empty vault. You are full, and you need to be that great that you were designed to be. Number 4, be present. Accept how and what you are feeling and what you're thinking. Write it down. Don't be afraid of your thoughts. Accept them, because they keep coming up. You can't keep pressing them down. Write them down and then reflect. Reflect on what that thought and feeling is connected to. Is it actually connected to the moment, or is it connected to your what ifs? Because you'll drown in the what ifs. You got to look at what is. Be present in the what is. You are in the now. And the only way your thoughts are going to change is if you are present in the moment, so that your mind can be renewed. Stop ignoring. Stop pushing down. Be present. Be present right now. And let go of the what ifs. There's 1,000,001 ways every scenario in our life could have played out. But you live according to how it did play out. Because remember, you got to be real. You're the victor and not the victim. You got to be you. The you that you were designed to be by God, not that fake stuff that you created because you felt like it was safe. You got to be great. Go be great. And you got to be present. Now, number 5, this is the last B. Be intentional. Your scars made an impact on you. Yes, they did. That is undeniable. But they aren't you. Your scars are not you. They helped make you. So you got to live Come out of the shadow of that moment in time, or those moments in time. Come out of those shadows. Be intentional about everything. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to give yourself one task, one task. And it doesn't matter if other people think it's small. Their opinions are theirs. It's not right in your life unless you allow it. How about that? Be intentional by giving yourself one task every single week to start and finish. Start and finish within that week. And every week, you're going to see that you are growing stronger and changes are happening in your life, because this is going to be part of your renewal process, so that you can be real, be you, be great, be present, and be intentional. But what you're not going to do, and what you're not going to try to do, is get over it. Work through it. And it is work. You didn't get here overnight. And the healing isn't overnight. It's a process. But it's a process worth taking. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to see the you that you are destined to be. So again, my name is Nichica Melton. You can reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is What She Said Coaching, and I've got a freebie for you. If you go to my website, whatshesaidcoaching.com, there's a freebie right there for you. And if you do what she said, then I promise you it's going to work out the way it's supposed to. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget your 5 B's. And feel free to share it with others that need to stop trying to get over it and actually start working through it. Take care.
Hello, my name is Lizbeth, and I am the founder of Multiple Mind. My mission is to help people heal their trauma through a model of therapy called internal family systems. Now, this is much more than just a model of psychotherapy. It's a new paradigm of self-awareness and traumatic release that really helps people to release trauma and live lives of creativity and fulfillment. Let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm from England, though originally of Indian descent. And I have lived and worked in a few different countries around the world. And these experiences really helped me to put myself in new cultural situations and see what baggage I was bringing to different situations, as well as to see what that culture imposed on me based on how I looked and how I sounded and behaved. I am a teacher by training, and I am also a certified internal family systems practitioner. And I combine these two specialisms by really wanting to help people learn how to use this model in their everyday lives. Because the trauma that we carry, the burdens, the woundedness, all of that can really affect us on a moment-by-moment basis. So, let me explain how this model understands or explains how we are made up, our psyche. You may think of yourselves as a monolithic you. Your mind is one, you are just you. However, this model turns that thinking on its head. You are actually made up of sub-personalities or parts. Now, this may make sense to you. After all, you are different people, almost, with different people and in different situations in your lives. And that's normal, right? You wouldn't want to appear at work how you are with your children or your intimate partner. So we have these different parts of ourselves that function in different aspects of our lives. But we also have parts of ourselves called exiles who carry burdens of trauma. Now, this trauma may have come from our own personal experiences. It may have come from just living in our society, replete with cultural burdens telling us that we're not good enough based on our ethnicity, sexuality, sexual preferences, gender, etc. And we cope with this, but often there's a lot of woundedness there that we try to push down because it's really painful. There are a couple of other types of parts. They are called protectors, and their job is to stop the exile from being re-stimulated. So some of these protectors are managers. They organize our lives and keep everything functioning so that that pain isn't re-stimulated. You may have a perfectionist part who gets lots of props for doing a job really well. And then you never have to face the pain of feeling like you're an imposter or feeling like you really are lacking in self-worth or that you don't belong. There are other protectors called firefighters, and these come into action when the pain of the exile has already been stimulated. And that pain can be so painful that those firefighters will do anything to stop that pain. Now, we have some firefighters who may just want to watch movies or go shopping. There are more extreme behaviors. Firefighters may want us to take illicit Firefighters may encourage us to drink lots of alcohol to numb that pain, or to have explosive outbursts so that we stop that stimulus from reactivating the pain. But it's a really painful going through life, carrying these burdens. It can often feel like we are walking on eggshells, just being us, trying to keep everything down and under control. Now, we also carry burdens that are inherited from our ancestors. These can be passed on through epigenetics, through our genes. It can also be passed on through family messages that tell us to behave a certain way so that we don't draw attention to ourselves. We may not even be aware of these messages. They are so woven into the fabric of our culture and of who we are. And of course, there are cultural messages that we react to in order to protect ourselves. So we can use IFS to heal some of those burdens. So let's do an exercise. I invite you to go inside and just notice what's going on in your body right now. Now you can close your eyes or soften your gaze if that helps you to go inside. And just notice what parts are showing up in your body right now. Perhaps there are some sensations that are associated with different emotions or feelings. Perhaps you can think of an issue that has been really bothering you. And just notice that each feeling or set of feelings is associated with a different part of you. Some of these may be conflicted. You may have the impetus to do one thing, and you may think that the complete opposite course of action is the best way forward. And just notice what it's like to hold that polarization where two things want something so different inside you. Now, the other aspect of yourself that I haven't mentioned yet is the self. This is who you are at core, your essence. Some people understand this as Christ-like or Buddha-like nature, your higher self. But it's an essential aspect of yourself, and it's full of compassion. And this aspect of ourselves can really help us to heal. So if you can, just notice what it's like to bring some compassionate presence to your different parts. We don't want to necessarily reassure our parts blindly that everything is going to be okay, but through listening to them, we can find the way forward as parts relax and heal what's underlying them. So, when that feels complete, open your eyes and bring your attention back outwards. IFS can be used to help people with legacy burdens. These are burdens that are inherited through our families and our cultures. And they can really stymie us. They can stop us from living our potential. They can really stop us from being the people who we want to be in the world. Now, there are no bad parts. Some parts may have strategies that don't necessarily work very well for us or for others. But if we can listen deeply to our parts, we realize that all parts have good intentions. Sometimes we have to listen really deeply to get there, but it's true and it's possible to hear that. So internal family systems therapy really gives people the potential to heal their trauma and release their burdens in a way that is quite revolutionary. So I invite you to check out my website, multiplemind.com. I have written a bunch of articles on different aspects of life and how we can use this model to understand ourselves better and the decisions that we make and what we bring to every situation. I also encourage you to just notice what parts come up today as you go about your day. Just notice your relationship to these parts. Some parts of ourselves we really don't like, and yet that's another part, because when we approach life, meet every moment with our self energy, there will be compassion and understanding. So just notice what comes up in you as you go about your day, remembering that your mind is actually multiple, and this can be liberating and healing.
Hello and welcome. My name is Lynn Meyer, and I am the HRT coach, which stands for Healing, Restoration, and Transformation. I am a licensed professional counselor. I've been in the mental health field for like 22 years, and I'm also an emotional healing coach. I work with women of color that have dealt with physical and sexual abuse, and I help them feel safe and sexy in their bodies and in their emotions. Today, I want to talk to you about emotional pain and how we can heal from it. All right. So I want to just jump in and just tell you what and why it's important to heal. Emotional pain comes from like heartbreak, a loss, a divorce, a bankruptcy, anything that disrupts like your security on the inside with your emotions, make you feel all over the place, right? But it's also the thing that's on the inside, and people really don't know that you need to heal from it. Or they feel like, oh, you can just get over it, right? Not true. Not true at all. You think about a time when you've been in so much pain where you felt like, oh, I think my life is over. This is awful. How am I going to get through this, right? And then maybe the people that saw you go through or seeing you go through, they say things like, get over it. Why are you still dealing with that? Why is it taking so long? That happened so long ago. You gonna let that upset you? Those things like that. And a lot of times, I don't think people mean to be harsh. I just think we're not comfortable with healing from the inside. All right. So what do I think is important? I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that someone is going through that, because it may look like depression, it may look like anxiety, but the acknowledgement of, hey, I see you going through something. I may not understand it, but I see you going through something. There's a lot of pain, right? Let me give you an example. When someone breaks a bone, you can see them, they have a cast on, and some people may say, oh, can I sign your cast? How long are you going to be healing? When did it happen? What happened? Are you okay? That's what happened when it's physical pain, right? Because you can see that. Now, when it's emotional pain that I talked to you about before, the heartbreak and all that, most people say exactly what I said. You know why? Because they can't see the pain. So they can't measure the severity or the intensity. But with the broken bone, they can see it. They understand that you've been through something. But that inside that they can't see, it's hard for them to relate. It's hard for them to be comfortable even talking about it because we don't normalize it. So let me tell you some things that you could do. For that person that is hurting and you want to support them, number one, check in with them. Just check in. Hey, how's it going? How are you feeling? I know you've been going through some things. Do you need anything? What's going on? You want to bring you some food? How are you feeling today? All of those things is a check-in. And we love that. We absolutely love it. Number two, be present. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. Sometimes just sit on the sofa with someone, hold their hand, give them a hug, just be in a room with them, just be present. And that goes a long way. So don't ever feel like you have to fill the silence with saying something. Just being present is good. Number three, provide empathy without no advice, without no judgment. You know what empathy is. Hey, I know you're going through a difficult time. I understand what difficult times feel like. I see it. I understand it. I'm so sorry you're going through that. That's what empathy is. Okay. So, or ask how you can support that person. I don't know what you need, but I am here to support you. What would you like for me to do? You tell me. And sometimes it's hard for them to tell you. Sometimes they don't know what to say or what to think. And it's just really hard. It's really difficult. But ask, because again, we want to jump in and save the person. So, but just ask. Give them the consideration and ask, okay? And number five, keep your word. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're going to show up on time, show up on time. If you say whatever, keep your word. I'm going to come. I'm going to spend the night with you. I'm going to take your children away from you from the weekend. Whatever you're going to do, please say it and do it. Keep your word. Keeping your word is very important. Now, those I just shared with you, those are the things that you can do to support the person that is going through the emotional pain, okay? That also desires the emotional healing. Now, what I'm getting ready to discuss with you now are the 3 steps that you go through when you yourself are the person that's going through the emotional pain. Number 1, acknowledgement. Acknowledge the fact that something happened to you. Acknowledge that you are in pain. Acknowledge the fact that, hey, I feel like I can't do this by myself. I'm losing it. There's something going on. There's just too much. It's too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge the event. It's okay. It's okay to acknowledge. Staying in denial, I feel like, is the reason that people don't heal. So acknowledge. Number 2, find your support system. It can look like a therapist, group support, a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, a nutritionist, yoga, Reiki, music therapy. Find that person that is for you. No one person heals the same. What works for me, works for me. What works for you is going to be something totally different. Okay, so that's step 2. Step 3, do the work. I know you thought I was going to say something else, but no, take the steps, do the work. That's the important thing. It's just like if someone gives you something and you know you want to change it. Say you want to change your physical appearance. And so you know you want to eat better, fruits and vegetables, walk, drink water, all those things. And you know to do that, and it's been given to you instructions to do it, and you don't do it. It's the same way with the emotional healing. Going through the pain, you know you want to heal from it. So that's what you do. So again, to recap that, number one, acknowledgement. It's okay to acknowledge that you've been hurt. And it's okay that you acknowledge that you want to receive help. Number two, find your support system. Find those people that are going to be part of how you start your healing journey. And number three, do the work, you guys. Do the work. So I know that this has been helpful for you. I just want to give you information on the importance of normalizing emotional pain and also normalizing the healing process. I am Lynn Meyer, the HRT coach. You can follow me on Instagram, the HRT coach. Or if you want to talk to me more, you can come to my site, which is www.lynnmeyer.com. Lynn, LYNNMEYER.com. I hope this has been helpful for you, and see you soon.
Hello, my name is Ray Kareem. I am a certified grief coach and founder of Good Grief Now, a 501c3 and full-service grief support organization. In these next few moments, I want to talk to you about what it means to grieve well so that you can be well. First, let me start by defining grief. I define grief as the natural response to loss, change, and transition that results in the expression of feelings and emotions. Notice that I didn't say a natural human response because animals grieve. And as a matter of fact, I am convinced that all living things grieve. Notice that I did say loss, change, and transition. Transition is a term I've added to the definition, especially in light of the many transitions that took place and are still taking place as a result of the pandemic. Transitions take place in other ways as well, such as when students are promoted from one grade to the next, or when an entry-level employee becomes a senior-level manager, or when someone who was incarcerated is now living freely. Transition is only one experience we don't always consider when talking about grief. We also don't always consider that death is not the only loss we grieve, and the death of people is not the only experience we grieve. We grieve the death of pets. We grieve the loss of relationships, what I call living losses, like breakups, divorce, the end of friendships, romantic relationships, and even business partnerships. We also grieve the loss of possessions, such as our cars, homes, sentimental items, and other things due to moving, natural disasters, or even theft. We grieve the loss of finances. We grieve the loss of possibilities never realized. We grieve changes like moving across the city, the state, or even the country. We grieve changes in our communities, our churches, our health, and even in our homes. And that list goes on. Though the list is vast, the way we grieve can also be just as varied. Everyone doesn't grieve through tears. Everyone isn't noticeably sad when grieving. Some people grieve silently. Others grieve out loud in ways we don't always recognize as grief. One griever may be a homebody, but now we see him at every event he can get to. Another griever may stay home and keep to herself as a way to navigate grief. Some people take up causes that are dear to them, their loved ones, or the thing they lost, like volunteering at an animal shelter or creating a foundation. I can personally say it's the reason why Good Grief Now exists, because ultimately, due to the back-to-back losses of my grandfather and mother well before the pandemic, as well as others in my friend group who experienced the loss of those close to them, I knew that something needed to be done. The one thing to keep in mind concerning grief is that unless intentional harm is being inflicted on oneself, someone else, a pet, property, or possession, there is no wrong way to grieve, because everyone grieves differently. Though there is no wrong way to grieve, there are unhealthy ways to grieve. Simply put, anything that you find yourself doing too much of or not enough of is unhealthy grieving. So let's say you decide to buy a couple of pieces to add to your wardrobe. That's great. But if you find that you are spending so much money on clothes to the point that other financial priorities are neglected in the midst of your grief, that is unhealthy grieving. The same can be said for anything else done in excess. And at the same time, anything that you're not doing enough of, sleeping, eating, keeping up with hygiene, maintaining financial responsibility, is unhealthy grieving. And I get it. Sometimes it's a challenge to eat, to sleep, to get out of bed. I can remember being in that same place. Yet, when you do have enough strength to muster up, try to do at least one thing that will likely energize you to be able to do the others. That's one of the ways that you can grieve well so that you be well. Grieving well and being well actually go hand in hand, because when we allow ourselves to feel what we need to feel and allow ourselves to release those feelings, we'll eventually feel better. Maybe not about the experience itself, but we will have allowed ourselves to be free of an emotional burden, which will also allow us to make room for surprises of joy to come along the way. But this isn't just for grievers. This is also for those who are what I call grief supporters. If you find that your loved one, neighbor, colleague, employee, or church member is grieving, be gracious and gentle with them. Support them by lending a helping hand or a listening ear to help ease the tension. Be safe space for them to express their feelings and emotions with gentleness for them and not judgment towards them. Be aware of people who want to rush them through the grief process. After all, from a biblical standpoint, mourning took place for days at a time. Give that same grace to grievers to help them grieve well. And to the griever, understand this: grief is not a destination. It's a journey you navigate one release of emotion at a time. So don't be afraid of your grief. Don't be ashamed of your grief. Ask for help when you need it, and be gentle and gracious with yourself because you've never walked this way before. These are some of the ways that you can grieve well so that you can be well. If you would like to learn more about Good Grief Now, let's connect. Email me at ray@goodgriefnow.org.
Hi, I'm T. Consuelo Davis, owner of Goddess Health and Wellness. I am presently a PhD student in clinical sexology, and I am a practicing registered mental health counselor here in the state of Florida. And I practice, or my focus specialty is sexuality and trauma. So I'm coming to you today to speak about historical or intergenerational trauma. Now, when we look at intergenerational trauma, I like to educate individuals on the fact that it's our past that is affecting our present, and it is our present that will dictate and facilitate our future. So I want you to hold that in mind as I continue with this presentation. When we look at sexual assault and racism, they interconnect for us when we talk about historical intergenerational trauma. And a good way to sum up some of the experiences is I like for people to look at the domestic violence wheel. You can pull this up on the internet and be able to see the different components that make up this wheel. And some of the components that make up this power wheel, or power and control wheel is how they title it. It is threats, coercion, minimizing, blaming, denying. There's also economic, emotional abuse. We say generational curses. However, I say they're only patterns of behaviors. And they were basically patterns of behaviors that we implemented, or our ancestors implemented, for survival and protection. Now we're in a stage where those patterns of behaviors are no longer serving us. And we're coming into our beautiful selves as a collective. And I want you to understand how trauma can impact us, and that different events, circumstances, situations, when you are in a highly stressful moment, your blood pressure raises. Not only that, cortisol is released within the body. And along with that, we cannot negate the brain. I teach my students, our brain is our central processing unit, like in a computer. Your brain facilitates the physical and the physiological within the body. So when we look at the brain and we look at how we're aware, our five senses come into play. And along with our five senses, we have to also acknowledge how we may take memories and hold on to those memories, which is also a part of trauma. Now, we may attempt to suppress and repress certain feelings, certain emotions. Our central nervous system is impacted when we experience a traumatic event. Also, along with that, our parasympathetic, our emotions and feelings, and all of that comes into play when we experience a traumatic event. So I want you to hold that and remember that even though we may think, oh, we can deny and it's going to be okay, if you're impacted, you will notice it, because it will manifest into depression, anxiety, PTSD. Right? So with that, I'd like to say that you can be healed via your intergenerational trauma or your generational curses. It is feasible. And that is what Goddess Health and Wellness is offering to you. We know that you are resilient. And with that resiliency can come healing is feeling, and feeling is healing. So Goddess Health and Wellness believes in creating a safe space as well as the cultural connection for healing, so that you can trust, be vulnerable, and really express yourself in the way that you feel most comfortable. So Goddess Health and Wellness is introducing lineage therapy. And lineage therapy is a holistic approach that encapsulates psychology, spirituality, as well as teaching methods to implement coping and wellness like Kemetic yoga skills, our Rule of 4 breathing, as well as meditation, prayer, visualization, creative arts, and most importantly, we also believe in positive sexual health and wellness. So if you'd like to get in touch with me for any speaking engagements, as well as any services, I can be reached at Goddess, GODDESSH well, WELL @gmail.com, as well as I can be reached via my website. It's Goddess, GODDESSHWELL.com. And you can call me at 754-300-7591. So if you're interested in services or even learning more about how to move forward with healing your intergenerational trauma, I'm here to support and help you with that therapeutic process. So I hope to see you and hear from you soon. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Triana Barnes, and I am here to present to you Heavy Healing Self-Care within the Black community. So a little bit about me. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, the Queen City, home of the Cincinnati Bengals and Skyline Chili. And for my bachelor's, I moved over to Kentucky, where I received my bachelor's in integrative studies from Northern Kentucky University. I studied social work, entrepreneurial studies, and organizational leadership. And from there, I went to Washington, D.C., where I recently received my master's in social work from the illustrious Howard University, and I am so excited to speak with you all today. So before I get into the history, I want to speak about Dr. Uchenna Umah. She is a former San Antonio, Texas physician that gives a brief summary of mental health amongst the African American community and how it was viewed and treated by the American medical community from the antebellum period to today. And she gives a lot of information. I will not be able to cover it all, but I wanted to give you her name just so that you can go back and go into depth about the information that in her research that she presented. So just to get right into it, before the 1700s, there was really no information about the conditions of Black mental health and how, what issues were affecting the Black community, most likely due to slavery, but it does start to show up in the 1800s. In fact, in 1848, John Galt, a physician and medical director of the Eastern Lunatic Asylum in Williamsburg, Virginia, stated that Blacks are immune to mental illness. We know that this is not true. However, Galt and a lot of other mental health physicians, mental health clinicians and physicians of that era really did believe that. And along with that, other antebellum medical researchers came up with diagnoses such as drapetomania, which was a disease that caused enslaved Blacks to flee from their plantations, as well as, bear with me, dysesthesia. This is a disease that they believe caused a state of dullness and lethargy within African Americans that were enslaved. We would call this depression. So instead of linking the severe depression or other psychological ailments that African Americans were experiencing to the direct mistreatment and torture, they made it an intrinsic problem with African Americans. They blamed them for their conditions instead of blaming the conditions that they were in, making mental illness a very bad thing, making it something that you did not want to experience, as you would be punished from whipping, and they purposely made it to where it would make your life harder. So I want to start by saying Black mental health matters. Your mental health matters. A lot of the stigma that comes, that is formed around Black mental health, it can be traced directly back to slavery. With them believing that Black mental health wasn't a thing, or that Blacks weren't sophisticated enough to develop things such as anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders, it really takes the humanity away from African Americans. So you can see that restoring Black mental health is literally restoring Black humanity. So that's why this topic is so important to me, specifically in other clinicians, Black clinicians. So getting to restoring Black mental health, the first step, the basic step, is self-care. There are other elements, but just basic mental health and restoring that humanity would be teaching Black people that they're deserving of self-care and what self-care is. So let's just start with the definition. A definition of self-care is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, in particular during periods of stress. So you deserve to take care of yourself. And in fact, self-care is a part of self-preservation. What does self-care look like? Self-care looks like going to therapy. I would be remiss as a therapist to not tell you that the first step of self-care is going to therapy. It is the best form of self-care. Self-care also looks like finding things that you enjoy. So I always tell my clients, what is your inner child want? When you were a child, what were those things that you did? Did you journal? Did you like to play basketball? Did you like to skate? I personally like to dance, so I love my Zumba classes. It also looks like spending time with people that love and support you. It looks like a healthy meal, making yourself a healthy meal, or a meal that you really enjoy that makes you happy. Self-care also looks like rest. So within the Black community, I love to tell Black people to rest, because that is one thing that also goes against a lot of stereotypes in the way that we think as African Americans. We tend to think that we don't deserve rest, that we can't rest, that we shouldn't rest. And I am here today to say that we can rest and we should rest. So self-care also looks like rest. That can look like taking a day off. That can look like a vacation. That can look like sleeping in, or it can look like taking a nap. Self-care also looks like removing yourself from unhealthy people, places, and things. When conflict resolution fails, it looks like saying no when realizing that you're overextending. I'm not saying don't help people. We need each other. We need to lean on each other, and it's okay to help people when you have it. But when you are barely staying afloat and someone asks you to do something extra that you believe will send you into a state of distress, it's okay to say no. No matter who they are, it is okay to say no. Self-care also looks like setting boundaries and maintaining those boundaries when conflict resolution fails. Self-care also looks like being gentle with yourself when you make mistakes. We are human. We will make mistakes. It is okay. So even in the self-care journey, you will make mistakes. Just remember that you're human, just like anyone else. You will make mistakes, and that's okay. Be gentle with yourself. Lastly, therapy. Once again, therapy is a good form of self-care because it helps you heal past traumas, and it helps you unlock the best version of yourselves. So for any mental health clinician or therapist, we will always be just overly excited to see you develop into the person that you can be, despite the trauma that you've been through. So I always tell people, go to therapy, because it truly does unlock the best version of yourself, and it's a great form of self-care. So how to implement self-care into your everyday routine. So one way is a self-care bag. So back to the inner child. So when you're in a good state, or when you're with your therapist, sit down and figure out what are those things that you like to do when you were a child. Did you like to skate? Did you like to journal? Did you like to play football? Did you like to dance like me? Did you like to jump rope also like me? Write those things down and put them in a jar. When you are in a bad state, or you feel like you need to give yourself a little bit more self-care and a little grace, pull one of those things out and do it for that day. that is a good way to implement self-care. And I also want to mention that you want to focus on your mind, body, and soul when focusing on self-care, as they all need special attention. So the things that I'm listing are just a few, but it does focus on each area. A coping skills bag. So I do this with a lot of my clients that are in a time where they're experiencing a lot of stress or they're experiencing a lot of anxiety. So I get a little bag that they keep with them at all times. And it has, if you like to journal, it'll have a little journal in there. If you struggle with anxiety, you like to fidget, it'll have like a little rubber band in there, something for you to fidget with. Have something, if it's a picture of somebody that brings you a lot of comfort, put them in that coping skills bag and just carry that around with you when you need to implement those self-care, items or skills. Also, take a walk. This is your physical health. Make sure that you keep your body moving. That's a good way to take care of your physical body. Also, deep breathe and stretch. Another way that we can take care of our physical bodies is relieving the stress that is in our muscles. I don't think that we realize how much stress and tension we hold in our bodies. So a good way to relieve that is to engage in activities that relieve it, such as yoga and stretching. And for the soul, I always say meditate, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's going outside. So these are tips that I give to my clients, and I also want to extend them to you. Along with those services, you can go ahead and follow me on all of my social medias if you want to continue this conversation about self-care within the Black community. Also dive into the history a little more. I know we didn't have as much time on this platform, but I definitely want to continue this conversation, and I'm so excited and so grateful that you invited me here today. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Walter Williams, life skills coach and founder of Deep Discussion Life Coaching. I offer support and coaching to individuals who are looking to discover and become the best version of themselves. I'm delighted to talk to you about the life skills that are essential to sustaining mental health. When met with adverse and difficult times, how do you maintain your mental health, and how do you maintain a peace of mind to get through those difficult times? Mental health, which is defined as one's regard for the condition of their psychological or mental well-being, is often approached or met with a negative connotation. Many people think negatively or become uneasy about mental health, and sometimes they may pass judgment on others when it is talked about. Mental health should be embraced and not met with disdain or contempt. Here are 5 skills that are crucial to sustaining mental health. I like to call them SCORE with mental health. Those life skills are seeking help, coping, organization, resilience, and empathy. Seeking help is when you acknowledge the fact that a mental or emotional crisis exists and that you are in need of assistance. With seeking help, it is crucial that you put your pride to the side and know that there is some help that you may need someone to provide you. What seeking help does is it helps you be able to know that you need to ask questions to someone when you're met with uncertainty. It also provides you the capacity to be able to share what's on your mind and share what's troubling you without having to have any shame or guilt. This one resonates with me because recently I was dealing with a mental crisis at work. I was unsure about what my job would look like going forward because there had recently been some changes with my role. After these changes were made, again, I was going through a mental crisis and was unsure of what things will look like going forward, what my role is, and really, I just felt kind of like I was being pushed out. After several weeks of stress and uncertainty, I decided to reach out to someone who was closely involved with my day-to-day routine, but not with my boss or my boss's boss, because I wanted to talk to someone who had an outside view and an outside perspective of what was going on. What she did was she helped me realign my thoughts, and I will get into the aligning and assigning of thoughts shortly. But what she did was she helped me realize that I may have been overthinking things and not properly giving myself the opportunity to acknowledge what is really going on in the workspace. Seeking help will do that. And not seeking help is not just about saying, I need help, I have a problem, but seeking help is recognizing that you are going through some challenging times and that there are resources out here to help you, whether it be a person, a website, a book, or something that can help you. Seeking help is not about saying I have a problem. Seeking help is about saying I can use some help and I can use some assistance to help me maybe realize some things that I did not know anything about. Coping is about not just about overcoming your pain and dealing with the things that are bothering you. Coping involves learning from your experiences, embracing the opportunity to learn and become a better person because of what you were faced with. When we cope, coping is important when we recognize that we need to maintain a calm disposition. Because when we cope, oftentimes we disallow our emotions to get the best of us. When we have a calm disposition, we allow the opportunity to learn to come in, because we're not weighing so heavily on why we're so mad, why we're angry, why we're sad. We just recognize that there's something for us to learn in this situation, and that opportunity to learn enhances our mental fortitude and it expands our mental capacity. The next is organization. A minute ago, I was talking to you about how I had to realign my thoughts when meeting with someone. And that is what organization is all about. It's about aligning and assigning the things that you may have thought as a result of your mental or emotional crisis. Our minds are always wandering, and our minds are built to develop and produce many thoughts. How we align and assign those thoughts are crucial, and the organization of those are critical, because a mind that is receptive allows the knowledge that is gained to contribute to us flourishing. How we see and think of things because of difficult times should be reasonable, sensible, and manageable. So when those thoughts weigh and come into your mental capacity, where you place those thoughts can be crucial in how you move forward and how you become better and how you sustain your mental health. Resilience is all about applying your thoughts properly and applying the things that you learn. When you apply the things that you learn properly, it provides you with perspective, and it gives you a profound vision on breaking through those mental and emotional barriers that you were met with. Acting on your thoughts with care suggests that you matured as a result of those mental and emotional crises that you may have experienced. And it helps avoid the mental plague that you may have faced. When confronted with hard times, mental recovery is facilitated by resilience. When gaining a peace of mind and confidence because you overcame hard times, mental health is sustained and it is reinforced. Empathy is critical, because empathy is how we maintain the mental health of those around us and how we maintain a mentally healthy environment. Having compassion and understanding for others and the awareness that others may be experiencing mental and emotional crisis demonstrates sustaining mental health on your part. It can prevent mental health illnesses on others, and it can preserve your mental health. What it does is, when you do for others, it can be a service to ourselves, because it serves as a reminder to practice self-care, and it influences mental health care behaviors for us and others. Prioritize exercising life skills when preserving mental health. When met with adversity, how you regulate your thoughts and your emotions can go a long way. Mental health is vital and should be embraced with care. It does not have to always be met with urgency and given this negative light. It should be recognized regularly and with normalcy. To learn more about these life skills and many others, visit us on the web at deepdiscussion.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Deep Discussion. And you can also follow us on TikTok. Or you can follow me directly on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Walter Williams. Thank you for listening, and score with mental health and become a champion of maintaining the mental well-being and emotional well-being of those around you.
Welcome. I am Reverend Carmen King, and I am so excited to be a part of this presentation as I talk about understanding the role of religion and spirituality on mental well being in the African American community. I'm excited to be here with you and communicate about this because this is really important to our community. Um, let's talk about first, and this is what I'm going to talk about first, the difference between spirituality and religion as it connects to mental wellness. Spirituality is about one's soul and inner self. Being spiritual involves holding one's personal set of beliefs and practices and searching for the purpose of life. Where religion commonly refers to the institution that, that has been organized, that has organized practices and structured beliefs and a structured belief system shared by those that are part of the institution and the members that are part of that institution. How does spirituality and religion impact mental health? How does it really impact mental health? There are several ways. And in the time allowed, I just want to talk about there's several ways. You may feel a higher sense of purpose, peace, hope, and meaning. Again, you may feel a higher sense of peace, hope, has a purpose, peace, hope, and meaning. You may experience we will a better confidence and self-control. It can help you make sense of your experience in your life, your whole life. Some researchers connect your beliefs and your sense of well-being. What do you believe? It's all going to mindset. Positive beliefs, comfort, and strength gained from religion. There's a positive. There's a positive belief. In positive belief, there's a strength and comfort that's gained as you pray to God, as you connect with God, because He is your creator. He's the one that created you. So that makes a difference when it comes to how that impacts our well-being. Now let's talk about the role that spirituality and religion plays in our mental well-being. It provides a sense of security. How many know you are definitely finding that security the more you connect with God, the more you find that sense of inner peace, the more you just pray and trust God for the outcome. It provides a sense of structure. And this can be very strong coping, a very strong coping mechanism through trying times. And I'm going to talk about how it was definitely a very powerful mechanism when especially when we're dealing with COVID. Others were praying for me, and I was praying for others. And we just found that connection and coping as we prayed one for another. Being an active member of, what we will call of a close community, spiritual or religious community, it provides, again, structure and support. There was so much support. Praying for each other. There's so much support praying for each other. And that impacts and helps in our mental well-being. Knowing that someone is there. Knowing that you can go to someone and talk about it. In a cross study, as I'm about to close out, involving 168 bipolar patients, researchers found that we call religiousness and positive religious coping was associated with better outcomes, mental well-being outcomes. Whereas, negative coping was associated with worse mental health outcomes. As I'm closing out, spirituality and religious connection makes such a difference. You to cope, a structure. There's a sense of calmness. There's a sense of understanding. How do I keep going forward? How do I keep going forward? And this is where religion and spirituality helps in our well-being. It just gives us a different mindset. So as I close out, I want to thank you for joining me on this presentation. And I want to stay connected with you to get on my list to stay connected with you as a consultant. And as a travel consultant, as a travel consultant, I know that travel also is so important to our well-being. As you have to get away from the everyday. And this is the vortex, and all it needs is your password and email. And we do not spam you, but we just give you great deals for you to get away with. And then you stay connected to me. So I'm going to share my link as I close out. That you can just keep getting better and staying well. So I thank you so much again for joining me on this presentation.
All right, and there you have it. Thank you so much again for joining us for this session of the Black Mental Health Speaker Series. Now, remember, this is just one session of our 6-part series, so be sure to tap in for all the remaining sessions. To make it easy, you can just subscribe to the Black Speakers Network channel on YouTube. Be sure to hit that notification bell and be the first to know when future sessions are shared. I think it's safe to agree that the insights, experiences, and expertise shared today by our speakers in the mental health space have been nothing short of enlightening. So I want to thank all of our speakers once again. As we close for now, remember that the conversation doesn't have to end here. We encourage you to take these conversations, these thoughts, these ideas, go back into your communities, into your companies, and continue the conversation. As you have heard earlier, the speaker series just represents a small fraction of the wealth and the opportunities right here at Black Speakers Network. And so if you are a current or aspiring professional speaker and you're looking for your next stage, look no further. I invite you to join the Black Speakers Network community. You can get more information at blackspeakersnetwork.com/join. Now, if you are a meeting planner, you're a conference organizer, you have an event coming up and you're looking for the perfect speaker to impact your audience, again, look no further. We would love to connect you. You could browse our online directory of speakers right now at blackspeakersnetwork.com, or you can submit a speaker request and we will make sure you are covered for your next event. That's live or virtual, or in person or virtual. But that is it. Goodbye for now. And thank you once again for joining the Black Mental Health Speaker